And today we're going to be talking about the new rule changing that is being introduced for Pendulum monsters. So for those of you who don't know or haven't been or who aren't aware now, is that Pendulum monsters that are special summoned from the extra deck without having a Link monster already existing on the board will now be placed into the extra deck monster zone. Also, if you have a Link monster and you choose to special summon Pendulum monsters from the extra deck, they will go to the respective corresponding Link markers. So for instance, if you have Decode Talker, which is bottom left and bottom right on your field, you would be able to special summon 2 monsters from your extra deck that were Pendulum monsters. This inherently nerfs Pendulum monsters to a degree, but I don't think that Pendulums are necessarily as dead as people are thinking they are, but obviously we will have to wait and see if that is actually the case. I honestly don't believe that, like I said, but I honestly don't believe that Pendulums are dead this way. And I do believe that this is an interesting way of tackling a long existing problem with Pendulum mechanics. And to be fair, for the longest time, I do believe, and I have always believed, that extra deck monsters in general had an inherent problem where you could just vomit these cards all over the board. And Pendulum monsters were no different, minus the fact that they were more explosive than XYZs and Seekers and Fusion monsters. And to the end, at this stage, Link monsters. So I do believe that this won't necessarily kill Pendulums, but it will make them a more skillful mechanic. Which means you have to have a Link monster in order for you to even do anything with your extra deck Pendulum monsters. This greatly inhibits metal foes, simply because that if you fusion summon first, you basically just lock your extra deck out because you can't efficiently summon anything other than that. This also stops Cyber Dragon Infinity plays from happening in the deck as well, so the Cleave 4 version is definitely dead. But the Magic Spectre probably still lives. I still think that the I think Metaphos are probably one of the best decks to play with the Link mechanic, because I do believe that you could probably worm cards out of it, like Cyber Dragon Infinities, Cyber Dragon Nova. You could probably get rid of some other extra stuff, like you could probably get rid of a second Ethereal number 3 or something like that, in place for another Link monster. Ideally, you probably want to play the Gaia Saber because he focuses primarily on normal monsters. Decode Talker doesn't seem to be very good in that deck, simply because you can't really use it in that deck, minus the fact that you're playing Magic Specters, and if you summon Maxi and or Rescue rather, but no one's going to do that. But Mega Capital G said that this kills the Pendulum mechanic. I don't think it necessarily kills the archetype. I think it makes a more skillful archetype. Mechanic in general, and I do believe that this nerf will be healthy going forward, because, as I said, even though I played Metaphos, the entire mechanic inherently was flawed. Being able to special summon 5 monsters from your extra deck and or your hand is pretty stupid, because these cards were generally reserved for cards that are on the limited ban lists. Cards like Dimensional Fusion, Rekindling, Rescue Rabbit itself, Soul Charge. But now we have an entire mechanic that is based around that, and I do agree with that sentiment that, basically allows you just to vomit all over the board. I do agree that that's inherently busted. So like I said, this wouldn't be this wouldn't be my version of handling Pendulum mechanics. I think if you just send the Pendulum monsters to the graveyard and not have them be in the extra deck, would have been super duper. But then again, I don't have the access to creating new mechanics without completely destroying destroying old ones, and I don't think this completely destroys the old ones. The Pendulum zones, I think, are kind of an ingenious way of nerfing the mechanic. By the way, putting them in the spell and trap card zone does make them a little bit weaker, because that means you have to plan your card zones, and it actually matters, because if you play like Vanity's Emptiness in your Pendulum scales on accident, then you kind of just screw yourself out of that, because I mean, it's just you just kind of just ultimately hurt yourself in that way, because you can't activate your Pendulum scale now in that zone, and you have to if you're playing like Metaphos or something that can easily pop cards, you have to now pop your Vanity's Emptiness. So Anyway, guys, tell me what you guys think about this rule change in the comments section down below. I will see you guys in the next video. This has been Team Metamorphose, and I will be signing out.